So, welcome to the regular meeting of January 3rd, 2023, of the Norfolk Board of Education. Call to order at 6:01. First item on our agenda is public comments. Mr. Byrne, would you like to make a comment?
Hi.
as member of the public?
Sure. So I'm here to, well, if you have new members on your board that aren't present, I was going to do a little introduction on the school safety plan. So that's what I'm here for. So let you know. I don't, do you want me to go through the whole spiel? Because most of you know what the plan is all about.
Well, so do you have that on the agenda, or do you want to give that?
It's not on the agenda, it's part of the public.
So you just want to give it a public comment?
Yes, because the superintendent will actually put it on the agenda.
Okay.
But anyway, so according,
There's something in here that is not for public, right? Because we're being recorded.
yes, no, there's nothing to do with this. Not for public. So the plan itself is required by state statute. And as the Board of Education, you are the ultimate responsibility for the plan, the emergency plan. So I developed, well, we get a template from the state for the plan. And I take that template and I adjust it to fit our school and what goes on in our school. And of course, add the appropriate material about our school into the plan. We also have to keep track of fire drills and any responses that we do have and things like that. And Lauren keeps that log. We have to submit that log every year on July 7th or July 1st to the state. As we do every year, I have to send a copy of the plan to the to Dennis, Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. So, and that is done. Every year we're supposed to, we have to do that by November 1st. So that gets done. In the plan, we follow the concepts of NIMS, which is the National Incident Management System. And that is an operational guideline that all emergency responders across the country use. So every fire department, police department, emergency rescue, all these people, we all use the same system, we all use the same language, so that when we have big emergencies, we're all talking the same language and nobody misunderstand what's going on. So I have a copy of the plan. I have a printed copy of the plan. Lauren has a printed copy of the plan. Mary Beth has a database, she has it electronically, and those are the only copies that are anywhere, because this plan is not open to the public. It's protected under the Freedom of Information. So, just so you know that.
Do you want to review who's on your safety committee?
Oh, who is, I am on it. John is on it. The fire marshal is on it, Keith. Who's our parent now? We have a parent who's on it? Yes.
Chelsea Bond.
Chelsea Bond is the parent on it.
And
Tyler is on it.
Ashley.
Ashley is on it. Lauren is on it.
Mary Pat is on
Mary
it.
Pat is on it. I am on it. You're on it.
Yeah.
And then Miss Garceau is on it. So those are the people. The only actually people that were missing on that is the police officer, is someone from the state police. Suggested that they're on it. We years ago, it's been quite a few years now. We did have a Sergeant Jenkins used to come to some of our meetings, but we haven't seen a police officer in a long time. They're so short-winded because they all their stuff today, but we just don't have the people
did reach out again to Chief, and, they said, well, if they can make it, they'll send somebody, so we send them our meetings, but I feel very sure.
And how often do you meet?
Every other month. And that is scheduled, it's in the Monday letter. It's all in the schedule.
Second Tuesday.
Yeah, second Tuesday.
Great, well, thank you.
So, the only other thing that, which we're in the process now, is we have to do a vulnerability assessment. We're required to do that every 2 years to school. And John Barbagallo and I, went to a class, in order to do assessments. So we spent a day learning how to conduct assessment of schools. And then actually did an assessment of school. And then, so that now we have a background to be able to conduct those with ourselves, but we don't just do it alone. We include someone like the fire marshal and hopefully a police officer, but, so John and I have actually been through the school, and I have a guide for that also, which is put out by a national group that has been paid for by the U.S. Department of Education to give us a guide on how to conduct an assessment and what to check. It's a 50-page document. So for our school, I've managed to narrow that down to 13 pages. We don't have portable classrooms, we don't have courtyards, things like this. The only other thing this year, they said that if you had athletics, you had to come up with a plan. But we don't have intramural athletics, so we don't have to worry about putting them in. I guess that's all I have,
Well, thank
unless
you.
anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much for that,
Okay.
Henry, and for serving on that board and keeping us all safe.
I'm trying hard.
Well, we might like to, we have Darcy and Shiloh and Lauren, I don't know, if they have any comments.
If you are online and have any comment, could you please unmute and speak now or hold your peace? Okay, so then we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of September 6th. Did everyone receive the minutes in their packet? Are there any corrections or anyone like to make a motion? A motion to approve. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries. Correspondence. It's not precisely under, it's not exactly correspondence, but I wanted to mention that, the board that has been invited to the Board of Finance meeting on, January 10th at 7:30. I would really appreciate everyone who was able to go. And I think that would be really good for us to have a good, strong presence there and to be able to prepare for that program. 7:30 town hall, Tuesday, the 10th. So a week from today.
You know, if it's scheduled to be in the remote online.
I bet it is. Maybe I will send an email and ask if it could be maybe moved to a larger space. Sure, upstairs. Because
That room is pretty squishy with two boards in there.
Absolutely.
And some on the heaters on.
Yeah. They want the whole board to them?
That was my impression, right? Amy, is not the impression?
I get when I was there, it mentioned that discussion of the budget is going to start in the January month, and that the Board of Education is encouraged to attend. There was a question about how many students would be enrolled next year, and then I want the board to support. But I don't have any clarification about that.
Yeah. So I think it would be a good idea for the board to go and to hear from the Board of Finance and also to be able to, give some context to what it is we do and why we do it and why it's important.
We does have a meeting, start at 6:30, but.
And they- Maybe they'll come here to the school, they don't space. That seems. I mean, it isn't in the realm of possibility, but we'll see how it goes. Okay. Superintendent's report. Everyone should have received the bills for review and budget to date.
And I have a few things to share with you. I'm sure you have all heard, that one of our paraprofessionals who was here subbing for Sarah while she was on maternity leave passed away really unexpectedly over Christmas break. Lauren did send home a letter to family, we will have a moment of silence tomorrow for him. He was a really sweet man, and I didn't realize how what an accomplished man he was, but reading his obituary was really amazing. Graduated from incredible schools, has done an awful lot in his 80 years of life, and you'd never have known he was 80 years old. He's been very, very personable, and to think that, 80 years old, he's working with children in the school is pretty lovely. He did work with a lot of our kids, and was well liked in the short time he was here, so we were very saddened to get that news. Okay.
The tree that's planted, that will be planted in his memory, is that here on campus or is that?
On the site, the burial site, you can make a donation, plant a tree, so I'm not sure where it will be, it won't be here. Yeah, Lauren did go to the wake, and the family was very, very, appreciative of the time he had here, and, spoke very highly of the hotel, so. Okay,
What town did you live in?
Right, yeah. At the last meeting, we talked a lot about assessment, and Lauren had mentioned that there were several things that just to note, and a couple of them were the high percentage of special ed students we had here and the high number of grade response students. And so, I think the question came up how that compared with other districts. So this is just a quick look at our neighboring. And you can see that while, they're all, I think, relatively high in terms of percentages, Hotel is at least, a couple percentage points higher than the other districts in terms of special ed students. And free and reduced lunch were heads and shoulders. I know the criteria has risen, but proportionately, almost half of our student body is at a level that is eligible for free and reduced lunch, which is not poverty level. It's a very low source of income. So that was just some informational data for you.
So you're showing Heartland here, but not in Hartford.
I don't know why Mary Pat was not able to get me Hartford, but I can get that if you would be interested. I asked Quentin to get me the figures from the region, and for some reason he didn't include Hartford either, but I will ask.
It's interesting that we have such a high free and reduced lunch, because, when we negotiate the teachers' contracts, the lawyer for the teachers board is always saying what a rich town you are, and look at these McMansions, and, they don't see the half of it.
Right. And the fact that we've also got money from the state on the total income for the town. But we have such a high percentage.
So, for these families, the state monies that, they go directly to families and for services and things like free and reduced lunch. Those monies don't go to the town. So regardless of, it wouldn't impact this. I know what you're saying, but they don't consider this when they consider,
State support.
right.
Do you know, I think I've asked this before, and you probably told us, but, what the percentage of kids who come to this school are renters?
Yeah, I asked Mary Pat that all the time, and I think the last time she said it had actually gone down. It had been much higher, but I think it's down closer to about 12-14%, which would still be, quite a few families. But I can get that exact number for you. But it does change.
I don't think that would be a lot higher.
I don't think it'd be higher too.
Yeah.
It had been a whole lot higher, but I will, but when you figure that a number of our families that have moved out were renters, but have moved out to another town to buy a home. So, we've lost renters,
We've lost the renters that we have.
the renters that we have, yeah.
Or if you have families living with, say, grandparents in houses, they're not counted as renters because the family owns that home, even though they don't own the home.
Correct. So, and I'm not sure if we could even get the number of students that who serve here, who family doesn't own the home. We don't, that kind of data, it would be more anecdotal, like Mary Pat and the people who live here that know. She might have a good idea of how many of our kids, are. But that is not something that, I would have a big look for.
But it'd be interesting to know also if the entire town population. What that person actually, not getting money.
Yeah, that would be,
And
to figure out the tax implications of these things and also people's, continuity or connection.
and the disparity between the town population.
A little good news, at Advance, I just got this today, they were awarded a major grant, a 5-year grant that is going to provide, social workers for 28 schools in our district, and, they are hiring 14, so we will have a 50% part-time social worker dedicated here to Norfolk. And they are beginning to define what all the roles will be, but I'm not sure what, that role will look like when the person comes here. There's, I'm sure, going to be a lot more information coming out, but it's really wonderful to know that at the state level, they are really paying attention to the need to have more social work at the elementary level. And I think, COVID, for all the terrible things about COVID, did bring into focus a lot more that we have a lot of young kids who really are, they struggle with anxiety, they struggle with depression, they struggle with all kinds of things that, require social work. And we've been very fortunate to have, social worker psychologists services here for a long time, but we will certainly benefit from additional services. So,
So that'll start next year.
it starts January, the grant goes January 23 through 4, 5, 6, 7, 28. Got it?
And so when will that person start here?
Not sure. Like I said, I just got this morning. Yeah, through December of 2027. Just got the notification that the grant was approved. So in terms of now they have to hire people, they've got to do some professional development with this to know just how we can utilize these folks when they will actually show up at the doorstep. I don't know yet.
But there'll be 50% time.
Absolutely. There are 28 districts being served, Norfolk being one, and they're hiring 14 social workers with the intention that each of those social workers will work between 2 schools. So most likely we'll be sharing with either Barkansas or Colebrook, one of the neighboring schools. I will keep you up to date on that. And then, I know there is going to be the Board of Finance meeting next week, and there have been rumors, and I'm not even gonna name the rumors out loud, but I think that, it's in a few, more than a few, maybe public arenas, the chair of the Board of Finance has mentioned that it's just really expensive, and with the declining enrollment, that we should pursue, and he's charged the board with looking to find ways to, perhaps consolidate or do other things, and he suggested that, we could send all of our kids to private school for what we pay for our kids. So he talks a lot about saving us money. I have done some looking into our budget and some of the facts, and I would really like to know, what some supporting data for how much money the town would actually save. And then the first selectman has made comments at board meetings that he's really not worried about the money, but he's concerned about the social aspect of our small class size. So I just, nothing comprehensive, but just a little bit of information. At the top, you'll see, there was a suggestion of, that, our kids could all go to Colebrook perhaps. So just picked Colebrook as an example. So if you look at the top, they don't have a preschool. So if our students were to go to Colebrook, there would be, I don't know if they would not be able to offer preschool. But in Norfolk next year, we have 8 pretty definite with possibly 3 additional preschoolers. So we could have as many as 11 kids in our preschool next year. And which would, if you look over to the early, well, I'll take the right-hand column for a moment. Then as you just go down, you can see that for next year, Colebrook projects 8 students in kindergarten. With our kindergarten, there would be a total of 13 in the class. And then down the line, if you take their projected enrollment and our projected enrollment, class sizes, kindergarten would be 13, first grade would be 12 students, 17 in second grade, 15 in third, 21 in fourth, 18 in fifth, and 23. Next year, our projected class size with our multi-age model, those class sizes are pretty close. So to suggest that by sending all of our kids to Colebrook, they would be in larger social classrooms, I think would, not necessarily, be a dramatic difference there. When you look at the amount of money, again, this is just all hypothetical, but if we had to pay tuition for all of our kids to go somewhere, if you took even half of what they're saying cost per pupil is here and what is pretty consistent, maybe close to average around the state of 15,000, say we only had 50 students, it would be $750,000 that we would have to pay for tuition. We would still be responsible for transporting our kids. Next year, our projected budget, in the budget for the 4th year of our contract, is $156,000. But it would be far more expensive in terms of transportation because our kids would be traveling far longer distances. Next year, we don't have all of our special ed costs, but they're going to be higher than the $464,000. And again, if our students were tuition students someplace else, the expenses would be far greater. You wouldn't have anyone, manning the table or, even being a voice at the table. And it would be very easy for whoever got these children to say, yeah, we'll pay for outplacement. We'll do this, we'll do that. There would be no checks and balances. There would be no incentive to provide, more in-house support. So that we would have no control over that special ed cost. It's not that we have a whole lot of control now, but there would be less. So we're looking in terms of special ed transportation tuition, more than half of what our budget is now. And then, things that you can't necessarily put a figure on right now, we would be paying unemployment for all of our current staff if they were to be let go, and our students were tuition students. The town would still have the cost of the building for as long as they own the building. And, when you look at the thousands and thousands of dollars just to heat, electrify, insure, maintain the property, it's not insignificant. And then there would be no federal funding. There'd be nothing to support because if our kids were tuition students, they would not be entitled to any federal funding at all. There would be, Norfolk would have no voice at the table. And then there would be I think, a massive impact on Norfolk. Right now there's not much, if any, business and industry. There's not a lot of housing, and to have no school. This town, I would be really afraid for what might happen to this town if there was no school.
There would be no draw for young couples, young families to move into town. What would be the draw? There would be no draw.
No. So anyway, I just share this with you because as the conversation goes and people talk about, well, it would be socially better or would save a lot of money. I don't think the town would stand to save more than what would, I don't know, maybe a few dollars out of everybody's tax.
Yeah, it had been mentioned to me in passing, it would be cheaper for us to send all our kids up to Indian Mountain than it would be to keep the school open.
He's made that comment a lot, but the fact is, our towns are bound by law to provide education for every eligible student. A private school or even any other public school is not required to take tuition students. Most of them, as we shared a previous, when we looked at this, attorneys will advise against it because the risk is greater than the value added. And so the town will have to find some way of reaching a long lifetime agreement with another town to take every eligible school child who, and it's not as easy as, well, we're just gonna write everybody a check. I mean, there are still going to be major responsibilities that the town has to provide a good education for every one of their eligible students. So, I'm interested in seeing what the conversation is at the Board of Finance meeting, but again, any information that I can get for you, have a response to some of the, I think, delusions that might be out there about what would happen, what the benefits would be of closing hotel schools.
Well, the private schools too, they have a huge admissions process
Of course they do.
that these kids have to go through
Yeah.
to, and whether, you're still shocked to see the kids that will know they're not appropriate for this school because, XYZ, well, their parents wouldn't fit in, or the student wouldn't fit in, or whatever the reason being. Just because you apply to private school doesn't mean you're gonna get in there.
Right.
And it's not for everybody.
It's not, and, I chair a board for the, Diocese of Norwich, the, parochial schools, and I was at a board meeting about a month ago, and the principal, in Middletown was saying, oh, I feel so badly, I had to tell 2 things that the children couldn't come back here because behavior issues or this or that. And I said, well, that has to be difficult, but, myself, I said, nice to have that prerogative to say, well, we're just not gonna deal with that. And, any place that a tuition student or student in a private school, they would have that prerogative, which, again, when you have, there are so many benefits to having a district school, but these are our kids. So we are emotionally invested in these kids. It's not just about, providing them with an education. We care about our kids, our families, So when we have kids who have behaviors or this or that, there's never a kid that we would ever say, oh, that kid doesn't belong here,
I wanted to ask about this chart that you gave us.
Yeah.
Can you, there's an asterisk by 156,000. I think you've said why that is, but could you just explain that to me again? I feel like I missed it.
So transportation, that's what we will pay next year to get our kids transported
To here,
To
so.
here. If
that
they were
can-
going to be transported to Colebrook or to Colebrook and Barkhamsted or to here, the town would have to pay for that. So it could be,
So it's likely to be
Okay.
larger than that.
Oh, my
They're gonna be
goodness, yeah.
transported all over the place.
that's what I'm saying, they would be transported longer
And
time.
transportation is
more buses.
guaranteed, or can you
Transportation,
say
yeah, we would be
it's on
required.
your own?
No, you couldn't do that because you would be limiting access. So to
But
say,
transportation.
you're gonna take your kid. That's why even now, if we have a student who's like a homeless student, or they move and they go to say Torrington, we have to pay or share the transportation to send those kids. We cannot ever say to a parent, oh, you have to provide transportation.
And then for the special ed number there, can you describe that one?
Sure. So here, we are part of shared services, and we are in an agreement where there's an amount in our budget which gives us space and services that would be far less than if we just didn't have those arrangements and had to pay for every child. Because we've got shared services, they have programs where we can send our students, and it is far less expensive for a quality program than it would be to send kids to an outpost.
So this 464 is the cost that Norfolk faces next year
Right,
with the shared services discounts and
Correct.
benefits and things.
correct.
And facilities paid for.
So everything. So, and again, we have PPTs and, we are absolutely committed to providing everything for every child that they need. But there are often times where, parents will say, well, we want to send our kids to this school over in such and such and such. And if there is a really good reason to do that, we will do that. But oftentimes, there aren't, and the programming there as opposed to Bridges or somewhere else there's not a good reason to do that. And we make cases, there's been times we have gone and shared services have, gone through due process and mediation. And there would be no incentive for, any other district to even be invested in that.
So more likely to just have
Sure,
larger
yeah.
costs because they would be
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah, easier, much
Then-
easier
then-
than to like do due diligence.
So who, if you were to have a voucher program, who does things like administer IEPs, or, like, how does that work? Or how do you,
So
how are
if
you
a child
testing, how
were,
is a child
pick
tested?
a school, a child went to Indian Mountain, went to Culver, and a child special ed. Those, I don't know about Indian Mountain, but so let's say Culver, they have a special ed team. So the child would be evaluated, tuition, with other.
So are they evaluated before they are accepted on a tuition basis, or are they accepted on a tuition basis and then evaluated? You know what I mean?
So
Like,
if
does
we're
that-
talking
does that
private
evaluation happen
school,
Before private school? Or after?
I'm not sure what the private school.
Private school, if they accept it, if they accept a student, they say, okay, yeah, you can come here, you can whatever. And then as the year goes on, it becomes obvious that that student is not benefiting from that school. They refer them out to say, you would be better served going to Salisbury Central. To
Oh,
Salisbury
so it's not
Central.
that they provide the stuff, they just
No.
will say, time for you to go.
Yeah, right.
Nicely.
That seems nice.
Nice.
I'm sure they say it nicely, but it still seems sort of.
And they're not legally obligated to do that, like, they don't have to handle certain medical conditions either, so. for
They don't have
example,
the resources.
yeah, like if a student has a medical issue, we have to have medical staff to help care for that child. But Indian Mountain does not, right? So like if they went to a private school, there is no legal protection. of-
I don't think I don't think that's right. I was director up there for,
Well, does
Years.
Indian Mountain receive federal funding?
I don't believe it.
Then they legally don't have to, so if they have a
But
child.
we do know.
You do.
Right, you do, you can choose to, yes, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, some schools can say, oh, no, we don't have the, if someone, like. Is a hemophiliac, for example, and needs an aide 24/7 with them. Right, and
Oh, okay,
they
yeah, yeah.
say, we're not hiring an aide to be a hemophiliac in a wheelchair, I know that my mother did that in Scarsdale for years, she was a one-on-one aide to someone with hemophilia. And like, they had, that was her, that one child.
I guess
was
I
her job.
misunderstood. I'm thinking you're
Yeah.
saying, no, look, if you have diabetes, we want to take care of you. or
Well, they
if you have
can,
this.
yeah, if they don't receive federal funding, they could say, oh, no, we don't have staff to take care of you, we're not training anyone, we're not training them to use food plan.
No, we had a kindergarten diabetic,
Right. Well, the
just all of a
school can
sudden,
say,
yeah, and we put a nurse with him
Right,
every day, all day.
I just wonder, so how is that, how can it then be legal for a state to, for a town to just give a voucher if the voucher doesn't?
Like, I mean, they would have to have agreements with at least one school to take every eligible.
So
It's
the
not a
voucher system-
feasible option to do what we can,
It's cost.
thrown out there. If in a public school, they would have a team that would do PPTs and would be obligated to provide services, but for instance, most tuition, and if we were to consider, it, we would say, yeah, here's the tuition cost, but the parent must also pay any additional special ed costs, any services. So, they would prorate the time, the services, and they would have to pay for that. So if our kids were tuition students somewhere, the town would still bear all the costs of any special ed services. And if the child was placed out, they would still have tuition and transportation. And we do that, we've had over the years, a number of kids have been placed out because that's what they needed. That way, we couldn't provide a program for them and they're placed out. But one student, $130,000 in tuition and another $60,000 for transportation. So, we really try very hard to bring resources in to provide kids before we just place
I
them out.
think that's a great point. We outsay if we can't provide what is needed, but we can provide for the majority of the local children.
Yeah.
We can, and we want it.
And when you look at the number of carers that we have, when we need support kids, we provide the resources. Because it's still better for a child to be in their neighborhood school than to be on the bus for an hour and a half on the plane or going to wherever. So like I said before, you know, we are looking out for the best interest of our kids, and we're not thinking of dollars and cents, but, you know, there'd be no,
Before our meeting with the Board of Finance, could you please put together an updated chart of area cost per people amounts, but I would like to include also the people who are to our west, not just the people who are south of us, because I feel like we don't ever hear about when people are giving those, and we give them Sharon, Canyon, Salisbury. Those numbers.
Sharon cost per people is astronomical.
Sharon, I think, there are,
So it's not
they're like
All of them.
40,000, they're way more. If you look at any comparable town, from Norfolk, it's all what we pay.
So I
That's
just
the
want to have
cost of
a,
having,
often when we have these conversations, we only hear about Winston and Torrington and New Hartford. Like, I just want to hear those also, those other towns too, so there's you know, people within our, I don't know, whatever.
So region 1 and region 7, and what about Goshen?
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Greenville? Yeah. And this 15,000, is that Colebrook's current tuition cost per student?
no, I just pulled that out of the hat, because
Okay.
they range from like, I think maybe the lowest is 12, the highest is in the 40s. So I'm saying, even at 15, it could be much higher. Indian Mountain is what's tuition?
Oh, because
So, you know,
Yeah.
it could be
With
far more.
8, it's 10,000.
Okay,
Like if you get 8,
it depends on the grade.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I mean, that is just kind of an average figure, but we don't have real figures. I mean, Colbrook doesn't, they don't have a tuition. They don't pay tuition paying students, so we don't know what their tuition, the board has not set that tuition. And when I called multiple superintendents a year or so ago, most of them said, you know, no. our
They
board
said it's
doesn't-
not worth it because
No.
it's too expensive.
Our attorneys advise us against that. We don't have it, we don't set a rate because we don't take tuition from students. So there's not a lot of comps out there, but, you know, can a building, what can even schools feasibly, if, you know, they said, here's a voucher, you can go to Barkhamsted, Colebrook, New Hartford. The ability to accommodate those kids, you know, families, like, most tuition takers will say, well, we'll take you if there's room. So like, you know, and, you know, you can come because we've got room in 5th grade, but your sister Ginger can't come because we don't have room in kindergarten. So Ginger has to go someplace else. It's really a nightmare. And you get, you know, it gets really complicated. But in any event, we don't currently have any of our neighboring schools that have set a tuition rate to say, well, if we sent them all to these schools, this is what the tuition would be. So the 15,000 is the very low end of the cost of people across the state. So minimally, you know, if you multiply that, if we're down to 50 students next year, we're projecting about around close to 60, but it's going to be a big amount. And
Well, I also thought, something that you said recently, I wanted to kind of say again to everyone else in here. It's likely that our population will level off now, that it won't just continuously tank. Because we had those larger, quote unquote, larger classes all graduated, but now we're sort of leveling at like, you know, between 5 and 10 kids coming in each year. Whereas
And next year, there are amazing, 11 kids on the list. 3 of them, I'm not sure that, you know, they're really gonna show up, but we have a solid 8 kids, which is the highest numbers of preschoolers coming in. And we will lose, I think, 14 or 16.
But that's the 14, like, that 6th grade class is the last larger class that we
Yeah,
have
there's
here.
one more that's a
So
little
then-
bit larger,
Yeah, 4th grade, I think, right? It was
the 7,
4th grade, yes. my girls,
16 or 17.
something like that.
But yeah, the date of 2021. So, you know, it would be,
Unless we can get more affordable housing.
might say there's a lot of it. I'm not
If
sure.
there's one of it, but there'll be no families moving into it.
Well,
I don't know if that is what he said.
there's 10 houses going up on his stuff.
Families won't move into that.
Also, there's currently two houses on the market for under $400,000.
Really, why?
Two. One on Parker Hill, it just got lowered to under 4, and another one is with the house you know, the foreclosure, 272. That old Victorian creepy house.
Oh, yeah.
On the left, the one on the left, down there.
I mean, that's it, that's the.
Right.
Right, yeah.
I was thinking as I was driving. Where, so when people talk about the 200 kids who came to the house. Who's living in those houses? Like, where are those houses all empty? Are they, where are those people? Where are those people? You know what I mean? Where are those houses?
Those families that grew up there with all those kids, where are they?
I mean, yeah, like if there were, I just don't get that. I mean, what happened? Are they vacant? Are they just old, the people, childless people living in them? Are they? I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
Type of demographic change.
Yeah.
The town demographics I know have aged, but I feel like it just, it's true. Where do all the children go?
And even the numbers are shrinking at Norfolk, they're shrinking everywhere. But really, my only point here, I do not believe that this will have any legs. I don't believe that it's going to move forward, but I just want, to make sure that people understand that they need to have some data to support their proposals or their hypotheses, but I, based on like just this local information, there's really not a tremendous amount of money to be saved. There's not, a huge, it's not like our kids will go into class sizes of 20 and 30. We still have pretty reasonably comparable class sizes with no.
Well, can I ask, if we can think about something, or you can, I don't know if you can come up with numbers or talk to a realtor. But if a lot of people say that this building is just so big and it costs so much money, like I bring my kids to tenants and I hear, oh, the hotel's opening this year, I thought they were shutting it down because the building was too expensive. And I was like, that's not even, that can't happen. However, I'm just wondering, if we did rent out, say, a floor of this building, say we took this floor that the kids don't have to go to, right? And we rented it out, how much could we offset the cost of the building?
This one?
Yeah.
Have to have it.
I'm sorry?
You have to have it.
Yeah, this is the floor. Yeah, so we have to do we have
No.
to make adjustments to our security plan.
And the egress, because we talked at one point about putting our taxis on the second floor, but we can't because they have to have certain, access to exits that are level, and we would have to do major excavation work. We can't do the first floor without doing, we have to convert cafeteria space into classroom space. Primary kids have to be, it'd be difficult to get
We
rid of
could
this
do
one.
some sister kind of services here that we've done in the past, like bridges or a daycare.
So
or
like,
some other things like
the
that.
middle floor, like,
The,
because
the exits cannot be shared by the younger students or the older students. The younger students have to have a dedicated exit on the level of exit discharge, so they can't be required to go upstairs or downstairs or share it with older children to get out of the building.
no, say, yeah,
Oh, that's
If
strange.
we look at that, we're talking about putting a swimming pool.
so if we keep the younger classes up here, but the center floor, like right below us. All of, like where the library is and all, like, if we rented that up, because that has an entrance and exit.
You
And
would
the
also have
staircase.
to be careful because you have to ensure, so if our kids are on the first floor and they've got to go to the cafeteria, or they have to go to art, or, they have to go to the gym. You'd have to be very careful of who's on that second floor,
Right.
because there couldn't be any interaction or.
Right, so do a door after the staircase.
So, right. So you have about a half of the floor that you could.
And like, what would you rent it out to?
Well, so I think it'd be cool if we could make it like I don't know, a doctor's office or dentist or daycare or like some sort of family services. Just something that could maybe bring more revenue to the building or, that would increase the visibility and desirability of living here if you're a family, you know, or, to make it kind of a family center, you know, that could have, or maybe like a, tutoring center, or, youth services bureau, something like that. Yeah. So I don't know if we could, even if we didn't bring somebody in who did that, maybe if the town wanted to invest in making a more family-friendly environment, we could build those services into our town structure.
Because there's already the makerspace, right? Isn't that what doing that down there was sort of part of doing it?
Well, the having the art space down the bottom floor, that was like a community project a while ago. But you know, just things to, if we have, you know, I think it's kind of like, what I wish for, and sort of our global plan for the school or for the board of ed is like, let's set some goals that are attainable, you know, like, what do we want to make better? And let's like focus on that one thing and build a pathway to it instead of constantly answering to these critiques, because, you know, the things that are troublesome, like there aren't enough children in the town, are really not something we can change and have no control over. So just like constantly being like beaten over the head with that fact is just not very helpful. So
That's not the reason that there are boards of education.
Your only job is to provide the very best education for kids. That's your only job. It's not to recruit families. It's not to problem solve about how to consolidate. That's the town's job to do. And if they're very interested in doing that, they can go out and have conversations. They can pursue any of those ideas that they have. But that is not their job.
In that mission. I love that idea. And thinking creatively about how we can partner with the towns to make this a more attractive time for the family. So that the longevity of the town, but after the time as well. We can absolutely partner with that.
it just feels like we spend most of our time on the board. I feel like, at least it just seems to me like we spend so much time chasing our tail with these critiques that we really can't. It's hard to understand how to manage them. How we can. But anyway, thank you for those numbers.
So the
That's
last
good
thing we
information
have,
for our.
now, the last board meeting, I understood that someone was gonna get to me some wordage for how you would like the survey question to be framed to parents to solicit topics of interest.
Oh, shoot, is that so much?
But in any event, I took the liberty of making this month's topic multi-age because it's been a topic that we postponed and postponed. So tonight's topic we put on the agenda as multi-age, and I have some packets that some of this you've seen before, but the first page is just the history, the rollout. This has been multiple years in the making, beginning in 15-16 when we began to investigate the model. We did a pilot year one. We made some adjustments based on that experience with the plan to move multi-age forward with every year that the kids moved on. We did have a bit of a pause because of COVID, and then in year 2021, we did do the, 21-22, we did a hybrid version to kind of gradually move it into upper intermediate, would be again the intention that by this year it would be a fully implemented model. So that's where we are now. And, you know, again, to the question of, well, what are you doing? We've had all these kids, what are you doing to cut costs? We've reduced our teaching staff, our classroom teachers by half. So over these years, we've, you know, eliminated, if you, staff will say salary and benefit, what would the average teacher say? Maybe 120,000, 100,000
For, I'm sorry.
for a teacher.
Now,
Say, so right now, right, if we had to hire 4 more teachers, salary and benefits, be about $100,000.
Yeah, because even our starting salary for teachers and teachers is at 5,600, we need a brand new teacher, so.
And insurance, if it was a family plan, 2025. So if you averaged it out, we haven't hired anyone except one in the.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
that's $400,000 that, you know, we have reduced our administrative staff, we've reduced custodial staff. So again, you know, they throw these things out there and there's these sound bites that, you know, travel around and reverberate and, you know, you don't even have the chance to say, that's not true, that's not true. So anyway, the second piece, again, you've seen before, I've had this article for a long time and, ironically, it was one that Chris Schneider included in his, research to, support his theory that multi-age didn't work, but this is, Sandra Stone was the person who came and did a lot of TV, did presentations for our families, for the board, for our teachers, and it really summarizes the, you know, what's the rationale, what is multi-age. It's not a program, it's an ideology, it's an instructional model that is very child-centered, focuses on standards and what children are learning, not content and specific grade level curriculum. So this just kind of summarizes the benefits and the value of multi-age. And then I attached the frequently asked questions about multi-age. And again, this is not new. We put this together several years ago. So do you have any specific questions about multi-age that I think for you?
I think what we talked about last time was about the communications committee said, getting some, Janet was talking about how she heard the, at that CAVE conference that we went to, the idea of asking, asking the survey. So, I'll check in with Janet about if she had some special language in mind, but, the idea was that we were going to ask them and then, devote it.
We've got February, March, April, May, June. We've got 5 topics that we can cover between now and the end of the year.
Okay.
It shouldn't take long once we have that question. We can send it out, ask for responses, and then based on the feedback, I will share that with you and you can determine what you would like to see the topic for February, March, April, and June.
Okay. All right, are we still in the superintendent?
I'm done. I'm done.
Then the principal's report, we don't have Lauren here, but she did send along her report. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, she's online, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
she's muted it.
I know she went the other one.
Yeah.
Lauren, if you can hear me, would you like to give your report?
I can do it if you want to.
Can you hear me?
Is your volume on?
Can anybody hear me?
Hold on.
Yeah. Lauren, you have to just put the volume up.
Sorry.
Or you can speak up.
Because I'm not connected to the audio. So that's something.
Funny, we didn't hear her at all.
How about now?
Oh, okay, yes, I hear you.
I had to, sorry if I'm loud. I had to turn you all up so I could hear you.
I'll put her face over here if you want.
Oh,
to
perfect.
match.
Okay, so you have a copy of my report?
We do.
Okay, so I just wanted to give a quick thank you to Miss Crush and the Yale Music School, that we had a quintet come and the kids really enjoyed listening to them. So I'm happy that we can offer those programs again. They also went to Colebrook and Northwestern. At the last Good News Gathering, our learning buddies worked again together, and they completed a fun STEAM activity. And I wanted to thank the PTO for sponsoring the holiday fair. We had Catherine Boughton come from the Republican, what is it? Yes, she took some pictures. She was going to come back for the winter sing-along, but then school was canceled that day, so that was too bad. But we have, as always, a lot of great enrichment opportunities for our kids. And speaking of that, on Thursday, we have a STEAM museum with Colebrook School. They're coming to Botel, and the kids are going to join together and go through the different activities in the STEAM museum. It looks like a great opportunity for our students. So thank you to the PTO.
Lauren, will the kids be spending the day?
Nope, the kids are coming in different grade level groups. So third and fourth graders are going to all be together. The K through 2 students are all going to be together. The sixth grades and fifth grades were a little larger, so we did separate them out. So for 40-minute blocks, we'll have a bus running back and forth to deliver kids to the program at those times.
Oh, okay, so they'll just come and go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And like I mentioned on my report, we have our winter benchmark assessments that we're starting next week. An early dismissal for professional learning, another good news gathering, and we'll review our students who need academic support and their progress at the end of the month. I wanted to say that we had students lead the last good news gathering. Lorelei, Anna, and Chloe. They did a fantastic job facilitating the good news gathering for the students, and it was really great to have them lead us through that special time together. Any questions for me?
Will the winter concert be rescheduled?
I have to talk to Miss Crush about that. Our winter concert is actually going to be in February. This was a sing-along for the whole school. But we were excited because there, we invited the community. I think a lot of outside families and community members, the daycare was coming. So we're disappointed that they weren't able to attend. So we still will have a winter concert, but I will check with Miss Crush to see if she would like to reschedule the sing-along. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Lauren, and thank you for doing this while you're not feeling well.
Sure.
Okay, then let's move on to our standing committees. Let's see what else we have. I don't believe personnel negotiations has met. Curriculum and technology, Amy, would you like to get a summary or talk a bit about that meeting?
Yeah, there's an update from about math curriculum and instruction. Shadow's working hard to find time, make time, even volunteering some of her time to meet with other classroom teachers and parse through the curriculum with them. They were very appreciative of the time that we've added to the calendar next year for more collaboration. And include anecdotes of how it's helpful specifically with this math collaboration between our math specialists and the classroom teachers. And then there are
Something interesting there. Dave Barrio talked, and I know this, I remember writing this before, but I know in West Hartford, they have a half day every Wednesday for their teachers to meet. And at Josh's school, they also had one day of the week that they had a half day every week for PT. And it's just, I feel like that's like an increasing trend in schools. And that's something. Yeah. Did you find that it made a significant difference?
for the teachers, yeah. I had a problem with student truancy and that didn't help.
Yeah.
Depends on that and then so. Literacy, we talked at length about the right to read legislation and the plan for our districts to apply for a waiver from the state. I have questions still, and Lauren has volunteered to make time to answer more questions about what that will look like, what our curriculum will look like, and how it relates to the science of reading legislation that was passed. So thank you for that. The idea being that we will apply for this waiver and create our own curriculum, and see if the state will accept the curriculum that we'll put together. But technology and enrichment, there's a lot of examples of the work that is being done through the hour code, and then other activities that are pull out and in the makerspace and the library, and pushing into the classroom, and all of the work that Erin has been doing to help our students understand coding more recently, and last month digital citizenship and internet safety. Then there the third through sixth grades have moved on to working with the meta moment in terms of SEL and the Google program, and the K-2 identifying the feeling words and where that is in the mood reader, and what it looks like to be about self. Work there. There's talk about investigating what once it's revealed, what the Region 7 portrait of a graduate is, which is kind of a picture of where you want your 12th graders as they graduate from our district. And kind of taking that as a starting place to draft our own vision of what graduating 5th graders, whatever we say. Promoting. As students need to tell what they want them to be, sort of what that really captures that really captures the whole child learning, not just numbers, dealing with numeracy and literacy, but the other ways that our students are growing and being successful and growing into the citizens that we're proud to be. And I think that's it.
Wow, you did a nice job summarizing that.
Very nice. Great. Does anyone have any questions for Erin? Okay. Our plans committee has not yet met, but we probably should be meeting soon, right?
Right, with the meeting coming up on the 17th, Tuesday, the 17th, it'll be about the budget. Okay. That's my point. That's what I'm.
Yeah, so on the 17th, Kathy and I have been working on a draft proposal that will include all of the figures that we know to be true, including like what future salary line will be, benefit line, area, anything that we know, and we will share that along with, what staff is telling us they need in terms of, media center, curriculum materials, so we'll have that draft proposal for the 17th.
We're meeting at 6 o'clock. In December.
I thought it was 5. I don't have my phone here, I'm pretty sure it's 5.
Okay. Policy, I know Jay is not here. We do have John. And John, would you like to talk about the rights policy?
Sure. So the life policy as proposed mostly talked about the procedures involving taking care of lights. It's, I think that the principal change is moving to remove the no knit requirement. So if lights are identified on a student in a school, the nurse will send them home with instructions on how to take care of it, and that the student can return that day once the treatment has started. The curricular side includes our you get one treatment of that, followed by calming, and but then you don't do that for another 6 or 7 days. So once the treatment started and close family members are monitored or put in routine treatment, then the student can learn the likelihood. So long as you're following best practices about sharing hats or that's or following the sports gear and helmets, etc. The transferring from student to student can be reduced in that way. So that's how we'll do it in school. But to reduce absenteeism, the procedure will be to just treat it that evening and then the student will come and get it. But following up on the guideline as presented. So there's what we got was a copy of the kind of the policy that was produced by our nurse, and then the state guidelines which are very similar, and then talk about one to acknowledge that the parents understand the procedures to follow and they follow it. So they're so aside from a few paragraph errors,
We still have to up the other things.
a few.
Okay.
One I found is some mom watchable articles may be disaffected in the
Do you have them all marked on your copy?
Yeah.
I think Dad should be all pro.
Right.
According to the level.
Well, it's just those words that the squiggle line doesn't show up. It's already built right in its own context.
Anyway, so I mean, we did everything for you.
Yes.
So did you have any questions or objections?
Question, on point 6, I understand sure confidentiality, the name doesn't go out to families, totally, that, name of the student will be shared with only those staff members who the principal or school nurse deems to have a reason to know. Is there, what are the reasons that the staff would need to know or need to know?
Nurse, if like the child is going to art, I mean, I'm not sure Lauren can maybe.
If we have sports,
We're just not gonna put it out there.
PPE or something.
Okay.
They might need to know if we can share comments or, but yeah, there aren't too many activities in school that I think of, but I mean, there's one. Lauren, do you have any comments as to what particular staff members might need to know or not know?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I can't hear you very well.
When, if, in the life policy, it says that, confidentiality will be maintained about the particular students who have been infected. However, there are certain teachers who might, need to know. And so those teachers will be informed. If there's some reason of any particular teacher or staff member may know, so the classroom teacher, the nurse, possibly the PE teachers, anyone else who might need to know.
The only teacher that might need to know would be Miss Garceau if they go to see her every day. But other than that, I can't think of another teacher that would need to know.
Or if there's a parallel. Okay.
How many people don't know what somebody puts on this thing? So do we need a motion to approve this?
Any other questions? Fine.
Any discussion? I'll make a motion to, approve, accept, adopt. Yeah, what are any other synonyms? The proposed, yeah. Headlights management policy 5141 dot 221, any appendix and all forms included.
So motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Okay.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so that one up with this.
And not to.
I'm sorry.
the inconsistent use of that gas. It's really awesome. I didn't mark that. I said that most of this. There's one paragraph in there. It's done correctly in the state.
Okay. You never got one of
Just
these,
that.
it's on the emergency master comment, if I do, I'm not telling you.
Thank you.
Okay, so is there anything else from the policy committee that you wanted to share?
No, because I didn't know.
Okay, and moving on to. I think the next thing on our list that I've met would be the PTO. Oh, it hasn't even.
The meeting is like tomorrow
Tomorrow, yeah.
at 6? Yeah,
So that doesn't mean- I guess, do we meet after that?
no,
We didn't meet in December.
Right.
Okay, and we heard from Mr. Byrne about the school safety security committee. Unless there's something else you wanted to share about that, John?
I mean, we met in December, we met in February, most of what we discussed was sort of procedural and various roles that happened and what happened. But the time Mr. Burns, so.
Okay. Amy, we've already talked quite a bit about the Board of Finance invitation and, you know, potential conversation there, but is there anything else you want to share from that, meeting last month?
The first lesson was talking about putting bids out for the roof, for the project that we, long-term budgeting for. Kind of, associated comments about, well, if it's not used at the school, then we'll call it whatever. Fortunate years, but it wasn't.
What's the status of the oil tank at the school?
So, you know, on December 6th, I believe it was, I did send an email to Matt asking about where that was, because with oil at Butler tank or something a gallon, we don't want to fill that tank only to find out, oh, it's time to replace it, now we have to pay to have it all pumped out. He said he would get back to me, if not yet, so it's out on that, but I will ping him again to see if we know what the feeling is about the tank coming out and the new one. It's way past its time.
Yeah.
I
I feel like that's been a conversation for years.
Well, you know, when I was executing, I look at the capital improvement plan, the 5-year plan. It's been on the plan since before I got here, and it's still on there. So it's the roof, the parking lot, the oil tank, and I've added the boiler because I've asked Claudia to come out and do an evaluation. He's done so many repairs, I don't even know where we are, but I've asked him to give us an educated guess as to what the remaining lifespan is of that boiler, so that we can begin to make sure the town has that on their plan, because it won't be inexpensive.
Okay, thank you. All right, if that's all, Amy, then the hotel advisory group, I think.
no, but with the holidays and stuff, you're supposed to meet in November, December.
We were supposed to have met, and then,
I will send out a message.
send it about it.
We have under unfinished business, the curriculum creation process, but, that's really probably a best talked about by Lauren, and I know she's not feeling her best, and I think we should move that. We should keep that on the agenda for next month. Leave that there.
Table them.
Table that was the word.
Do you have
Yes.
cinnamon for table? Put in the cabinet, put in the parking lot?
I feel like transition works for everything. Can you transition my thinking? Okay, and we have talked about, we covered our multi-age piece. So I think that we are, ready for.
I need to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
And happy new year, everyone.